How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Billy Jack, franchise owner and designated supervisor here at Exit Realty Central in El Paso, Texas. Hey, so in this video, there's a lot of confusion. I know it can be very intimidating when you're doing the inspection time and you get the inspection report back and you see all this stuff, all this inspector jargon and things like that. If you're not very familiar with construction or electrical, plumbing, all that kind of stuff, it can be quite intimidating. You're like, how am I going to word this or ask for repairs, or what do I do here? Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go over all the main sections of the inspection report, okay, and a lot of the common findings that we see in them, and how to kind of help you a little bit better on understanding a lot of very common things that inspectors are going to put in there, okay, and what you're going to see, and then how to word it on your repair requests. Okay, so we'll go down to we'll go in order here, and then you can use this video as reference, when you get your inspection reports. And of course, there's going to be some things that are going to be quite tricky, and you can always come to me. I am a licensed home inspector too. Been doing it for well over a decade now, and I'm quite familiar with how this entire process works. Okay, so here we go. Starting up the foundation section. Okay, if you see anything really that's a deficient item with the foundation, okay, let me see. Let's bring this back up. If you see anything that's deficient here on the foundation, that's kind of bad already. Okay, so unless the inspector really is not too familiar, or he's just noting small little cracks or something, but pay a close attention to what he puts in the comments, okay, of it. If it is a little confusing, you can always come to me and tell me. Okay, so this is the main deal. Okay, if you're not familiar, foundation is this, okay, around the bottom of the house. When there's some cracking, if you see pictures that are doing this stuff, things like that, and if he's noting things like this here, this can be a little bit of a problem. Okay, the foundation has shifted, it's starting to move, okay, and then we can have issues with it. Okay, there is some things that, for example, like this shrinkage cracks, not a big deal. Okay, shrinkage cracks is expected with all masonry products. It is going to happen, but if you do see something worded on your report about foundation, it's a defect, he has it marked here as deficient. If it's not very clearly written, you can come to me and then we'll go over it. Okay, I'll help you with that, because foundations is a very touchy subject. It's not just something to take lightly on. Okay, grading and drainage. Okay, what this means, this is around the house right here. You see how these little arrows are? Okay, so the idea is every house should have a grading that goes away from it. Okay, so the water, as the rainwater is gathering, it should have a way to run around and run off and not go to the house. Okay, so it shouldn't be able to be pooling against it. Okay, so it's pretty rare. I rarely see major issues with this when I do my own inspections or the reports that I review. Okay, but if there is, some inspectors may not be very specific when they just say you might see wording that says, the slope is it's sloping towards the structure, needs correction, or something like that, something kind of vague. Hopefully they put a picture of it there, or they're a little bit more specific. Okay, but typically sometimes they're not. Okay, if that is an issue, it can be costly. And if it's a big grade towards it and there's already damage around the house, then that means that there's a lot of water pooling on there and it could get inside. Okay, so again, if you do see something like that and it's not very clear, I can help you out with it. Maybe we can talk to the inspector, or have to go out there to the house to actually see it. Okay, so hopefully that's not the case. It is kind of rare. This is not really a big issue that comes up too much. Okay, so hopefully that won't be a big problem, but that is what that is. Okay, grading is this. Okay, the grounding around the house. Okay, roofing. Okay, so typically you're gonna see, majority of them are always gonna have something with the roof. Okay, unless it's a brand new roof or brand new house, typically you're always going to see something. So don't freak out. This is one thing that a lot of it is typically just maintenance or minor. There is some stuff that, you know, would warrant a complete replacement, but we'll go over these sections. Okay, so of course you're going to have the type of roof covering. Okay, so it's going to be asphalt shingle, you know, 3-tab shingle, architectural shingles, rolled roofing, things like that. Okay, so this is just informational purposes, how they walked through it or how they viewed it. If they walked the roof or it was too steep, they just had to see it from the side of the ladder. And then, of course, their comments and their findings. Okay, so now with the shingle roofs, okay, there's a lot of issues that could be from very minor to quite major. Okay, so a lot of things are, you know, if you have like torn shingles or a little bit of, you know, some minor damage or something that they put in there, or exposed nails. Okay, when there's exposed nails, there'll be, sometimes they'll have nails on the cap, on the roof, on the ridge line. The ridge line is the top part of the roof, okay, where it slopes all the way up to the top, and the nails are supposed to be sealed. So that's very easy fix. If there's just a few damaged shingles, you know, that's not too bad. Okay, they can maybe replace some of them. Okay, so it's not, this is always on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so you just have to really read it and then see what they're putting. Okay, so some of the roofs, they are savable, you know, they just need to do a little bit of maintenance on some of them. And if you have something like hail damage, okay, so here's a hail damage picture. Okay, so see, the hail hits it. This is the shingle here. Okay, when the hail hits it, it damages it and it weakens the structure. See, it kind of splits it on the bottom. So that's why, you know, a hail damage roof is, you know, it kind of needs a replacement on there, because it does destroy a lot of it. Okay, so if you see something that says hail damage, then it's something that maybe we can negotiate for a insurance claim, you know, or have a roofer go over there and then give an estimate for a complete replacement, maybe get some credit on it or something. Okay, that's a different part of your negotiation. Okay, so on when you see, I don't think I have a picture here, but I'll just tell you about it. Okay, if you see a roof, he puts it on there like the evaporative cooler has run water off and it's stained it, you know, and you see the stains around the shingles. Okay, it's not, unless it looks really destroyed and it's really bad, and if it is, the inspector should put that. But, you know, for example, in my case, I just put, you know, hey, there's been some staining on the roof, and that's not necessarily too bad. It's just the evaporative cooler was leaking on it, and don't ask for them to clean that off, okay? Because if they go up there and power wash it and something, they'll literally destroy the roof. Okay, so, you know, but a little bit on a case by case like that, you know, you see something like that, and if it's a little confusing, you can always come to me. Okay, but roofing, you know, it's pretty, it can be a very wide variety of things. Also on the flashing sections, what's called flashing, let me see if I can get one up real quick. Okay, so on the flashing, here we go. Okay, so this, when you see things like, hey, the flashing has some gaps, or, you know, the connections or something, that's what this is. Okay, for example, we'll use this picture here. Let's see if we can bring it up. Okay, so this is flashing. See, that's maintenance. Every now and then this is going to start going out. You're going to see some gaps here, you know, around the chimney, or when the roof connects to a different part of the structure. For example, like here, you know, where the roof connects to another side wall, there'll be some gaps here. Okay, you know, and typically here in the southwest area here, they just put a tar and granule. It's very rare that we see this very nice stair step flashing. Okay, so but if you do see gaps like that, if it's noted on the report, hey, you know, there's gaps, you know, flashing is deteriorated, that's just maintenance. Okay, no big deal. Okay, they can be easily fixed. Very easy thing that should be able to be negotiated, and they should agree to it on the repair request. Okay, so, you know, but yeah, so that's not really a big issue there. Okay, routine maintenance kind of stuff. Okay, so another thing you might see too is wind damage shingles. Okay, if you see pictures on the roof, this is common in this area. See that? Okay, let's see if it comes up. Where is it? But you can see it here. Okay, so yeah, that's taking a little too long. Okay, but this is pretty common in this area. We do get very high winds here, so when you see that, if the roof itself is still in pretty good shape, the roofer will go and just replace these tabs. Okay, so it's not. Don't get too scared. Okay, this is quite common when we see issues like this. You see, that's wind. Wind did that. Okay, you see up here, it kind of destroyed it a little bit. This one's a little bit bad, but it's still easily fixed. I can fix this real quick one day. Okay, they'll just put and see the rest of the shingles still look pretty good. So you kind of have to use your judgment a little bit here, But when you see that, it's not a big deal. That's another very common find that'll be on the roofs here in this area. Okay, and going back to the evaporative cooler real quick, I want to show you a picture. See this? That's well, let's see. It brought it. Okay, see, you see, that's not really a big deal on the roof. Okay, it's just the water was running off, it was leaking, and then it's on here. Now, if it looks pretty bad, if he says that the structure itself is pretty messed up, or it has a lot of sponginess or something, that's a different issue. Okay, you see, it's the same thing. See, you can still see it's a little bit wet there, but I'm sure that's okay. Okay, so you could just leave that as is. That's not, but it is something that most inspectors do put it. Okay, I do put that on my reports too, just so they know that, hey, the cooler is leaking onto roof. Over time, it could seep in there and start damaging. Okay, but as long as they're not noting that there's a major structure issue, because you could feel it right away when they walk on this, they'll feel that deterioration in there. Okay, see, here's another example. You see, it's just a calcium buildup. We do have hard water in this area, so this will start. It'll turn to that white color. Okay, another thing you might see too is deteriorated shingles. Okay, anything like that. It says, shingles had some evidence of damage or wear or nearing the end of its useful life. Okay, so situations like of course, like that. Okay, it's already pretty worn out. This has a lot of hail on it too. Okay, so does that. Okay, so if you see issues like that, it's probably, you're probably gonna need a new roof. Okay, that needs a new roof. Okay, so those are already pretty bad already. Okay, so if you see something like that, deteriorated shingles, end of useful life, something like that, it's not repairable. Okay, and most roofers, when you do send a roofer out there, that they're gonna say, we're not gonna work on this, or if we do, we're not gonna give a warranty. Okay, and also if you're gonna ask for some repair like that, like the wind damage, when you have the wind damage shingles or anything like that. Let's see, we'll get this back up. Okay, you want a roofer to fix that. Okay, I don't want Uncle Bob or anybody going up there and fixing it. I'm sure your buyer won't want that either. Okay, even though it's a pretty simple job, for somebody, like myself or somebody, I know how to install them properly. Okay, but you don't want just a seller to just do whatever they feel like. Okay, so you can ask, on your repair request, the roofing system to be repaired by a professional roofer and provide the paid invoice. Okay, and also it'll show the roofer information and warranty information on the work that they did, or if they're not warrantying it because the rest of the roof is damaged, then you'll see that. Or if they just don't want to give a warranty, at least you'll have that. Okay, you'll have that information for your people, for your buyer. Okay, another thing here is on the flat roofs. A lot of new construction, there's some old houses too that they have flat rolled roofing. Okay, something like this. Okay, where you have the flat roofs. Hey, these are different than the shingles. Okay, so sometimes you'll have rolled asphalt roof like this one here. Okay, it was an old roof, looks like an old asphalt roof, and they're putting a new coating. So this coating needs to be updated every 3-5 years. Just depends on the intensity of the heat and the sun and the weather that's around. Okay, but this, if you do see on there that the coating is deteriorated, that's how this is fixed. You see, he just reapplies a new coating. So sometimes they can just spot coat it. They can just do some spot coating on there and resurface it. So it's not necessarily it needs a new roof. Okay, it just depends on the severity of it. Okay, so when you see notations like that, see this one can use a new coating. See this roof here was like this white one before, but now after this is probably maybe 5 years old, and it's already starting to wear off. Okay, so we would like to see it, redone. Okay, we see it's pretty simple. This is like an acrylic kind of coating, so that's a little high end there. Okay, but you see that's just how they do that. So no big deal. It's pretty simple. Okay, that's maintenance. They are gonna have to do that anyways every so often when they do have the house. Okay, so that's pretty it. That's pretty it for the roofing systems. Okay, so if you have anything special or something that you haven't seen before and you have questions like that, you can always contact me and we'll review it. Okay, so roof structures and attics. So different inspectors put certain stuff in different areas, but I'll go ahead and go over it briefly with you here so you can get a good understanding of it. Okay, so on the attics, you'll see here view from, it's going to be attic entrance or however they were able to access if it does have an attic space up there. Okay, the average depth of the insulation is for information purposes and then their findings. Okay, so here it is, the attics. So a lot of common things that you'll see on there is maybe uneven insulation. So it's something maybe like this. This is not too bad. Okay, but the insulation that maybe is not even, and we'd like to see it properly covering all the areas. Which is it's not difficult. Okay, so sometimes if there's missing bats. Okay, these are called insulation bats. Okay, so we'd like to see them covering all the areas, but it's a fairly easy fix there, unless it doesn't have any insulation at all. It can be something a little different there. Okay, so that part of the attic, it's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory there. Okay, so if you do see structural defects on attics, like if they say, see like this board here is broken. Okay, so that needs a fixing. Issues like this, if you see something like the structure or a beam is broken or cracked, something like that, then we do need to have like this one here. See, that's pretty bad. You do need to have a contractor come and fix that. Okay, so you do want to say, to be repaired by, a professional contractor and to provide that invoice in there so you can make sure that they do certify that, hey, the repair that I made is sufficient to support that structure, right? So, if you have things like this, a drywall thing, something like that, then that's not really a big deal, okay? I mean, that's if you want to have that fixed, just have a handyman in there to fix it, okay? But for the main attic structure stuff, okay, so this, you'll see sometimes you'll see even on new houses, I have seen that, okay? And I mean, it's not too bad to fix it as long as the actual structure is not compromised. Okay, but if you see any issues like that, structure or anything like that, you do want to try to negotiate it to get it repaired. Or if your buyer still wants it and they're not going to do it, then at least so they understand what they're getting. Okay, fascia. Okay, this is another. I put those type of defects on roof structures. Some inspectors will just put it on roof coverings. Okay, so these two, a lot of them that they'll put stuff that I would put here, they'll put it up here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Fascia, when you see an inspector that uses the term fascia or soffit, okay, it's this part of the roof. Okay, like this part here, the deteriorated part, that's the fascia. So you think of it as the face, it's facing, and then the soffit is this area. Okay, it's the under part of the. See, here we go. See, soffit and fascia. There you go. Okay, so a main thing here is this is pretty much cosmetic. Okay, this is at a period of time. That's the weather. It starts weathering. It starts getting a little deteriorated. Hey, that's gonna happen. This is a little bit bad. But issues like this is pretty common here, especially in this area. You'll have the sun, the weather cooks it. A thing with this, FHA or VA loans, the appraiser will not pass it with this. Chipped, peeling paint, they do want this fixed, okay? Because that's a protective layer for the wood system. If this is not repaired, the wood starts to dry out, and then it starts getting pretty bad, and this starts happening. things like this. Okay, so if you are having a government insured loan or government guarantee loan, FHA, and you see anything like this on the outside, chipped peeling paint, anything that looks like that, do negotiate to get it repaired, because come appraisal, they are going to hit you with that. Okay, they will. Okay, they always do. See, this doesn't look too bad. The wood still looks good, but appraisal will say no chipped peeling paint. Okay, they do want to see that fixed. Even this. Okay, not bad. Pretty easy fix, but though they will tell you to fix it. Okay, so fascia, soffit. All right. Okay, but one other note is, when you have issues like this, even on the wall sections, or or in this part here where it's just chipped or peeling paint, you don't necessarily have to tell them, I want a professional contractor, paid invoice, all that. You can just say, repaint or repair chipped peeling paint on the fascia, repair that. And then you can even tell the listing agent, the appraisal's going to flag that anyways. Okay, like this, appraiser will say that. Okay, but this, you can put a little bit of putty, depending on how the roof looks. But you can just putty that up and then paint it. Okay, any handyman can do that kind of work. So that's not a big issue that you need an actual tradesman to do it. Okay. All right, wall systems. Okay, so this can have a number of things. Okay, on the wall system, most common in here, especially in the newer areas, it's mostly stucco. Okay, even sometimes in the old houses, you'll have issues like this. Okay, or like that. You see some chipped areas in the stucco system, things like that. I'm sure you probably have seen some of that on some of the reports already. Okay, this is common. This is going to be the ground here, and then a little bit of some water splashback damage on that there. Okay, so this, it's pretty common. Not so much of a big deal, but it can be if it's not fixed. See, they're already doing a repair here. They're already cutting it out and putting a repair here. Okay, this is pretty extensive here. Okay, so when you do see things like that, these are important issues. The way you can look at it when you're looking at the report, or if your buyer's really leaning on you to help them decide on what to ask for, the outside is very important. You take care of first you take care of the roof, then you take care of the walls. Okay, and that protects everything inside the house. Okay, so imagine if it rains here a lot, all the water that's going to be getting in behind that wall. See that's already bare wall there. Okay, so you really want the outside to be taken care of and fixed. Okay, so if you have things like that, issues like this, I've seen this. Okay, so this is pretty bad here. This is a lot of water damage has gotten in there, and it's causing all that cracking like that. Okay, so if you have issues like that, professional contractor to repair damaged stucco. Okay, and provide that invoice so you can see that it was professionally done. Okay, if it's something minor, small little holes or something like that, you can still put, have it repaired. But, if it's like something like that, you don't necessarily really need a whole stucco contractor to do it. Okay, as long as they know how to do it, and then you can go and check it on your final walkthrough or something and make sure that it is done. Okay, some issues like this, a stucco guy probably should do that, because that is pretty bad. Okay, so that's not too bad. Every stucco system, after a little while, it's going to have some issues. This is something different. Okay, a little bit of compression, maybe what's happening up here, and cause that to happen like that. Okay, so, but this is just normal wear and tear, things like that. Okay, see, it started chipping off. Okay, stucco cracks. You'll see a lot on reports that they just have like minor little cracks. Okay, so small little hairline cracks. And this is how it gets repaired. You see it has a little tube of caulking there, fills it in, exterior grade caulking, and just fills it in. If it needs to paint it, might have to repaint it just so it can look good. Okay, so it can match. But this is very common. Okay, so when you see stuff like that, and if you want to negotiate that to be repaired, then they can just fill it in. Okay, fill it in with some caulking, or they can repaint it. Okay, that's not necessarily the biggest deal, but you see that's very small, very minor. Okay, but just routine maintenance. That's just the nature of stucco systems. Okay, hairline cracks. And see, there's how it is. I just filled it in and caulked it. All right, ceilings and floors. Okay, so on the ceilings and floor section, the biggest thing that you're gonna see on the reports is gonna be things like this. Okay, water stains. See, that's very common. See issues like that. Okay, even minor ones like this. If you are going FHA or VA, that's gonna be a big setback. That okay, the appraiser is not gonna want to see that. Okay, so when you see things like that on the report, you also have to look at the roofing section and see, scroll back up and see if the inspector put anything about the roof. It needs repair or anything like that. If it has a new roof or it has previous repairs on there already. Also with seller's disclosures, usually a seller is going to know that they have this. Okay, if they have issues like that, I mean, that's pretty hard to miss. Okay, so if check the seller's disclosures and see if they put on there. If not, I mean, you can always ask them too. If you're gonna negotiate any kind of repair on that. Like I said, if it is a government loan, FHA, VA, they are gonna have to repaint that and fix it. Okay. Okay, another thing you might see is what's kind of common is the ceiling cracks. Okay, cracks in the ceiling. Like let's see things like this. I'm not sure if that's gonna show a good picture there. Takes a website. Okay, but you can see it here. See these little cracks here, around the corners. This one's kind of significant there. But you'll see sometimes the inspectors will comment on that and they'll say some cracking observed. Okay, something like this. See that? See how that is? Okay, this is not a big deal. This is pretty common. You'll see stuff like that. The inspectors are just gonna note. A lot of it's just settlement. Okay, so if you do negotiate that to be repaired, if the buyer wants something like that fixed, this is very common. Even on a new house, you will see this kind of stuff within a few months, and that's some settlement action. It's just the wood's expanding and contracting and it's cracking a little bit. Okay, so it's an easy fix. Okay, you can get away with doing that. Okay, so that's just some of the things that you'll see on there on the report. So that's not really a big deal. This is on the wall here, but you see, just a little bit of shifting, a little bit of movement. Mm-hmm. Flooring defects. Okay, so the most common defects you're going to be seeing on flooring defects is cracked tiles. Okay, this is quite common. Some uplifting here. Okay, so that is pretty. It's pretty common to see that. This is one of the biggest things that I see quite often. Okay, so that's basically just replacing the tiles. Okay, if something like this happens, sometimes this is just for an improper installation. They put them in too tight, or they had some upheaving under there. If you see something this severe, well, then yeah, they need to fix that. Okay, so somebody probably just dropped something on there. Okay, so that's gonna be one of the more common ones that you're gonna see. Or with hardwood, if it's got some hardwood stuff. See on this one, it looks like they probably put it in a little too tight. Okay, so this is moisture. Okay, some moisture got in there, and that happens when they mop them. So if you go and you see these kind of laminate hardwoods and you start seeing these kind of bubbles, okay, a lot of times if it's all over the place, it could be they might have had a leak in there, or they're using an excessively heavy wet mop. Okay, so but that's pretty much the most common that you're gonna see. Okay, if you see something real crazy, you can ask me and show me the report, and I will help you with it. Okay, so but not really much of a big deal on the floors. Sometimes most of the time it's just the floor covering. Okay, if there's other severe issues like foundation issues or something, then there's also going to be a lot of defects with the walls and windows and doors, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Okay, so now we're down to doors. Okay, so with doors, the most common ones is when they hit the frames. Okay, on the sides, they don't line up properly. Maybe they're already hanging a little low. Of course, cosmetic damage if there's holes in the doors. Okay, so you see, so sometimes maybe the hinges are not properly done or something. Doors is not too much of a big deal. Okay, if the inspector puts that it's, see, like this is mostly cosmetic. But if he puts that it's hitting the frame or something, it's usually not a big deal. If it's more slanted and it's really not lining up right, and there's going to be cracks on the walls and all that's a little different. Okay, but that's usually the most common. This also, I think this is, I'm not sure that's a door or not, but a lot of them are going to have water damage on the bottom. It's very common, especially outside of the garage door. On the exterior door, see, this is just wood rot here, maybe even termites right there. Okay, but all that stuff is fixable. Okay, so it's not really a big deal. A lot of it looks worse than what it really is. That's a window there, but you see, so doors mostly cosmetic. It's pretty simple fix. Okay, a lot of times, see, this is the weather stripping that needs to go underneath an exterior door, but not so much. Not really too much serious stuff will be found with the doors. That's a quite an easy fix. Or the hardware. A lot of times on the reports, you'll see that a door won't latch when it's closed, and what happens is just over time, the hinges start getting a little loose and the door starts sagging a little bit, and that's why it hits the door. So a lot of times, an easy fix is just tighten up the screws on the hinges. Sometimes I'll just do that real quick and it fixes it quite quickly. Okay, but that's really it. Doors is not really too much major stuff ever comes out of the doors. It's not an easy fix unless the door has a big hole in it. Somebody got mad and kicked it or whatever. Okay, and then it just has to be replaced. Oh, like this one. See, so they'll have to replace at least that wood panel there. The frame is cracked. Okay, so. Like that, see, that could be that somebody already kicked it or something. Okay, all right, but unless you start seeing things like the door is heavily decayed, if you start seeing a lot of damage on the door, if you see the report that says that, then you'll probably have to just ask for a new door. Okay. Hey, windows. All right, so windows, the most common thing, especially on the double pane windows, is moisture in between the glass. See that? That's a double pane. There's moisture in between. So you'll see a lot of that. See, that's quite common. What happened? Okay. So that's one of the biggest things that I typically find, and most inspectors find, and you see it. So when that happens, when you see that on your reports, moisture in between the glass panes, they have to replace this glass pane. It's not the whole window. They don't have to do the entire window. Let me see if I can find a double pane one here, but it's just the section that goes in between the framing. Okay, so it's just the window here. It comes factory sealed. Okay, and there's really no way to fix it to get all that moisture out of there. Sometimes over time it will go away. It just kind of evaporates, but then you end up with that fogginess that's in there. Okay, so that's one of the things, usually it's a couple $100 depending on the type of window that it is and the type of decorations. It's if it has any kind of rods inside of it or and of course the size. Okay, but that's the most common, and of course broken windows. That's very obvious. If you have broken windows, anything like that, if you have cracked or broken windows, FHA, they will tell you to fix it. Okay, so that you do have to be very conscious of. Okay, so if you do see, that's a BB shot. Okay, if you do have things like that on the windows, and if it's FHA, they will tell you to fix it. Okay, they don't want to see any broken glass anywhere. Okay, and then of course, if you have something like that, they just have to replace that one section. Like here, see, it's just that one section. Okay, so windows is not so much of a big deal. If you put another one is also balance rods. Okay, so let me see. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so balance rod on the windows. Let me see if I can find an accurate picture here for you. Okay, so this right here, this is a balance rod. See, this is the window. Window's open. Here's the screen. Okay, a lot of the most of the time, this is one of the most common things that are found in the reports. Okay, these are very easily fixed. Okay, so you see, you can just buy them separately. here they are, $8, $10. Okay, it's a little more difficult just to install them. I mean, it's not difficult. I've seen the window guys put them in. They install them within a few minutes. Okay, so it's not a big deal. But this will keep the window from going up and down smoothly. It can still be operated. See, this is the older style with little screws. So maybe even in your own house, you might notice something like that. Okay, and it's just that they come loose. Sometimes you can just replace the little brackets and kind of stick them back in there, and hopefully it clicks back in place. If so, then that's nice. But like I said, not really a big deal. It's probably wouldn't be one of the most priority things to ask for repairs, depending on what else is wrong with the house. But just so you're aware, that's what the balance rods are. Okay, stairs. Okay, stairways, aside from cosmetic defects that might be noted on stairs, like some damaged steps, anything like that, some of the obvious. One thing that a lot of inspectors tend to put, and which, they're kind of required to put, it's not necessarily code, but some of them will still do it just because it's a safety issue. You'll see a lot of where it has to have 4 inches in between each of these rods, the what's it called, the banisters. Okay, so the 4-inch rules is just so kids don't get their heads stuck in there. Okay, so you see in between these, sometimes they'll say it's supposed to be less than 4 inches, but that's not, see, like this here, see, it says that. So sometimes you'll see that in reports. Now, to have that fixed, that's not necessarily feasible. It goes with the style of the home, but the objective is your buyer needs to know about it. FHAVA, I've never heard of anybody, any appraiser saying that needs to be fixed, for approval. But the main thing is just so your buyer knows, hey, you know what, watch out with your kids to make sure that they don't get their little heads stuck in there. Okay, sometimes they'll comment, the rail is not high enough, but whenever it was built, it might have been acceptable, obviously. Okay, but so, and then it's not supposed to have, it's supposed to see all these little code things. Okay, but that's not something you really should be worried about. If they do freak out about it, well, okay, but that's probably the most common that you'll see on reports. And that it needs a railing on this side as well. Now, some local municipal codes need also a railing there, but that'd be probably the least that I'd be worried about to negotiate. Okay, so especially if you have other things to negotiate. But just so you know, that's a lot of the stuff that they'll be mentioning. Okay. Now, if there's some of them will even put uneven stairs, maybe on an older house, one stair is longer than the other, trip hazard. Okay, just they're not gonna fix it. And I don't think any seller will tear out their stairs and rebuild it for you, but it's just so your buyer's aware of it. Okay, so, and that's really it. Stairs is pretty common, pretty straightforward. Another issue could be on the attic entrance stairs. Hey, here we go. Attic entrance stairs. Okay, sometimes these are broken. Okay, I've pulled these down and some of them have dropped me. Okay, so, but it's just, that's kind of a little bit common. But if that's important to your buyer, that they'll probably have to replace the whole thing, just depending. This is sold as a complete unit. Sometimes if it's just one piece of wood that's broken, it's an easy replacement. Okay, but not really so much of a big deal. Fairly easy to fix. Okay, but stairs are pretty straightforward. No big deal with that. All right, moving on. Fireplaces. Okay, fireplaces and chimneys. The most common thing that I typically see and I see on reports is cracked firewalls, which would be right in here. Okay, so inside the fireplace, if it's an actual wood burner, on an older house, cracked firewalls should be resealed, right? Because then the heat can get through there and kind of burn it up. You see this, how it has a little cracked firewalls here. This is an easy fix. Okay, you can get some epoxy seal, at any hardware store, and it's rated for very high heat. And see, here we go. and it can kind of fix it up in there. See, here we go. It's exactly like that. And see how to fix mortar gaps. Okay, so they put that in there. Okay, I've even seen the contractors do that themselves, fireplace guys, and that fixes that. Okay, so it's not really a big deal. If there's a lot of bricks that are loose or coming out, that's also another common thing. They'll just fix it up. Okay, that is kind of an important thing if the buyer is planning to use the fireplace. Any kind of gaps or anything like that should be fixed, so it doesn't end up causing a fire. Okay, if it is issues like this, structural stuff, that can be a little bit different. Okay, so if you have an older house and there's some brick and it's kind of coming apart, that's an expensive fix. Okay, that would be quite expensive to fix it. Another most common thing is no spark arresters. Spark arresters are these little cages that go on top of these to keep birds from getting in there, and then to keep the little embers of fire from splashing out and falling onto the roof and kind of burning your roof like this. See, this is it right here. See, another thing is the caps. Sometimes this is deteriorated. That's all real easy fixes. Okay, to fix that kind of stuff. If you see things like the gas burner is not working, or on these newer fireplaces that they're inserts and they have an automatic gas starter that's inside. Sometimes those go out, so it's not a big deal. It's an easy fix for all that kind of stuff. Okay, so no big deal really on the fireplaces, just the firewall, things like that. Mm-hmm. Alrighty, up next is porches, balconies, decks, or carports. Okay, so it could be major stuff, but typically it's usually not. Okay, so a big thing is the railing. Sometimes the railing is loose. It just needs to be, this is like that by design. Okay, so, but if you have issues, sometimes there's some water that gets in there up from the top, or if you see like that, see that's some water that got in there. But if you see issues like the railing is loose or something, that should be fixed. It's a safety issue. Sometimes just the covering on top of the balcony here is deteriorated. No big deal. Okay, so it's mostly cosmetic stuff. If on the support beams of the balcony or on the porch, some of those have, let's see, for example, a lot of these on the front, the wood beams will be a little deteriorated. So it just depends on the extent. You kind of can see the picture, or ask them to have a contractor go and fix it. Okay, so, and the carports, same thing. Pay attention to see if it's not sagging or anything. So see that's kind of a big issue there. Okay, but on the carports, we find that a lot. The support beams are a little deteriorated, so it causes the carport to sag. Okay, but it's not it could be a major issue. It just depends on it. Okay, so if you do see something like that, something that looks kind of structured, you can always ask me until you get a little bit more experience to know what you're looking at, and then I'll tell you if it's a major issue or not. Typically, I don't really find much in this section here. A lot of times it's just loose railings or issues like that. Okay, so that's a pretty simple one. Not too much of a big deal in that section. One last comment on the balconies. If most of the time, especially if it has wood planks, or even on porches, if they put a wood plank covering, something similar like this, it'll be deteriorated. Okay, so sometimes the inspectors will put, hey, this should be resealed. And that's just what it is. A general contractor, a handyman could come out and just sand it down and reseal it. Especially here with the sun, can get pretty bad. Okay, and it'll cook it. But it's mostly cosmetic. As long as the wood is not all deteriorated and rotted. Okay, but issues like the railing, support beams, things like that, that can be a little bit of a safety thing. So you can look into that and see if you want to ask that to be repaired. Okay. All right, so that brings us to the end of structure systems. This comment here, some inspectors will just delete it. Some will keep it. If they do put a comment in here, it might be something that's not really relevant to these, or it's just a general comment, or maybe cabinets or something like that. Okay, so anyways, that's the end of this part. I'll come out with videos for the rest of the sections. So just keep in mind, this is, I give you some samples of what I typically find or what I see in the reports, just depending on the severity. A lot of times it's good to ask, for paid invoices, from the contractors, just to make sure that it was done, because if you do get a re-inspection, like I said earlier, the inspector might not be able to really verify that it was done. He can only see what he's really looking at. Okay. Alrighty, y'all. So hopefully this helps you. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach out to me. And that is it. We'll see you on the next video.